like when groups come together like collectively and they all have like a similar vision, that's where like the magic happens, right? One person is powerful, but it's not the same when you have a group of like-minded individuals that want to work together to achieve something. Like, get out of the way, you know.
A flip phone, a fax machine, and a pager walk into a bar. The bartender says, "What is this, a museum?" Technology moves fast. What was cutting edge 20 years ago is now more nostalgia than necessity. Sure, a flip phone can still make calls just fine, and a fax machine technically works okay. But why settle for fine when you can have better? If your back office technology still relies on email inboxes and manual workflows, it's time for an upgrade courtesy of ePay Manager powered by OTR Solutions. With ePay Manager, you can modernize your processes, streamline invoice audits, and automate payments with proactive workflows that don't rely on those email inboxes. The result? Faster invoicing, stronger security, and 50% lower back office costs. Don't let your business get stuck in the past like that pager you stopped carrying in 1999. Visit epaymanager.com or text ePayFC to 80483 to bring your back office into the modern age.
Today's episode is also sponsored by Rapido. Rapido connects logistics and supply chain organizations in North America with the best nearshore talent, scale efficiently, operate on par with US-based teams, and deliver superior customer service. Rapido works with businesses from all sides of the logistics industry, including 3PLs, carriers, and logistics software companies. Rapido builds out teams with roles across customer and carrier sales and support, back office administration, and technology services. The team at Rapido knows logistics and people. It's what sets them apart. Rapido is driven by an inside knowledge of how to recruit, hire, and train within the logistics industry, and a passion to build better solutions for success. Learn more about the Rapido solution and begin building your team away from home at gorapido.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Control Chain. Struggling to find loads? Control Chain offers a cost-effective solution for carriers to secure more freight contracts with reliable shippers. Plus, you get a free tool that automates tasks like managing order details, updating customers, and sending PODs. Say goodbye to spreadsheets, emails, and phone calls. With Control Chain, you can manage everything on one platform, from planning and execution to getting paid. Sign up at controlchain.com and start receiving loads today.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by Happy Robot. AI workers allow you to train once, scale without limits, and leverage every single data point. Happy Robot's AI workers can be deployed across your business. Common uses are carrier sales, check calls, and POD collections, but workflows can be configured to any use case. Happy Robot connects to your systems to handle phone calls, emails, or any other communication channel. Data from every conversation is logged and leveraged for future sales. Customers benefit from operational efficiencies and time back to handle exceptions, build customer relationships, and proactively close deals. Happy Robot is automated communication built for the supply chain. To learn more, go to happyrobot.ai.
All right, partner. Welcome to the Long Haul Podcast.
Yeah.
Where we're going to go on a ride and talk about anything really that we want to on this adventure. Go through side quests, side views, and yeah, talk about logistics, life, business, all the stuff we've been talking about, my friend, on this mastermind. But what I would really want to talk to is about the stuff that interests you the most, Trav. And as I've gotten to know you over the course of the last few weeks, maybe even in some ways years, but really, really we've gotten to know each other better over the last weeks. I know you're a man of faith, a man of courage, a man who likes sports, who wants to bring good to this world, and wants to help the people in his tribe, in his community, in his life, in his kingdom, and that ranges from the talks that we've had about how to better prepare your dispatches to speak with drivers that are waiting at shippers and receivers and are getting impatient, and better ways of like trying to get people to figure out what to do with their time, to hosting mastermind groups within the Double Diamond Tanager circles.
Yeah.
internally inside of the towers. And so,
Yeah, no, it's everybody we touch. You know, it's everybody we come in contact with, from drivers to shippers, receivers, other people on the road, everybody that we work with, customers, brokers, anybody that we come in contact with, we should leave, better than we found it, right? Or better. Um, we want to be, the change that we want to see in the world, right? We want to be the reason why people still have faith in people and companies. Um, there's a lot of quotes that kind of come to mind. One of them is like, spend the first half of your life accumulating riches and the second half giving it all away. And I'm not that old yet, but I do feel like I'm.
oh no, Travis, not that old yet, but I feel like, and it cut you out.
Hey there, amazing listeners. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on our podcast, we need your support. It will only take a moment, but it would mean the world to us. Please make sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share with one of your friends that would enjoy our content. Your engagement helps us reach more people and bring more awesome episodes to you. Thanks a million, and thanks for being part of the podcast community.
Okay.
From time to time, you were saying that you guys you're trying to create something, a company where people, being that company where people still have faith in companies, being the people that be the change you want to see in the world, and everybody you touch just leave better than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think you told me one time in one of our talks, that you build the people and the people will build the business.
Boom.
And that's huge, right? When I sit down with one-on-ones with my employees and discuss their future in the company, I'm like, look, if this is the last place that you ever work, that's great. Like, I would love that. That makes my job a lot easier. But if it's not, that's okay too. And I still want you to be a better person for having worked here, you know. And that's
Yeah.
and that's the goal. Is just to help them improve their habits, improve their work ethic, and just get the best that they can give. And if that takes them to the next level and they end up starting their own company or they end up working for a competitor, you know, more power to them. And that's, I can only take them so high. And if they want to go higher, then I mean, I'm going to miss them, and it's
That,
hard to
that
replace them.
That's what
But
I
that's
struggle with. When I work with people, I want to figure out a way to, like, hey, let's figure out a way where you don't have to go to any other companies ever. Where, like, our vision, like your vision fits inside our company's vision, so
yeah,
that we could figure out a way for you to, within our operation, as long as, like, it makes sense and everything, where we could still work together, where maybe you could start a division and be an entrepreneur within this
yeah,
organization. And like, I'm, as you say that, like, I feel like, oh, I would hate to lose some great people on my team,
yeah,
and I'd be okay with it. However, I want to figure out, like, a way to keep everybody. Keep good people in your clan, in your tribe forever.
yeah.
Um, and obviously you can't do everyone, but everyone has their own life path, etc. But
Not everybody has the same dream, okay, and
mm,
that's okay. And that's what I've told everybody, from the guy that starts with us in the wash bay to managers, mid-level managers, upper management. I'm like, look, If your goal is to get a new car, I want to help you. If your goal is to get a new house, I want to help you. If your goal is to start a family, I want to help you. If your goal is to build skyscrapers, I want to be a part of that because I want to build skyscrapers. So whatever your goal is, assuming that it's good and you have good intentions and you have the work ethic and you know you're willing to put it in, I'm willing to help. So
Love that.
yeah,
That
that's
yeah, that's what being a leader, that's what being a friend, that's what being a good person is about, I feel like. And
think so too. Yeah, just helping everybody. We help a lot of our owner operators, set up their LLCs and run it like a business. And um, I think that's one of the biggest things. Like when we were starting out, it's like, what is our why? And my why was because I worked for other companies prior to doing this, on our own, and I saw the drivers struggling. I saw the drivers struggling with money, managing their own finances, not making the percentages that they should make. I saw them, running into maintenance issues and then not having the money set aside to fix their trucks. And then the companies, it just didn't make sense for the company to help them. So they were down, and we had a conversation today with a gal in my safety department, and she's got a driver, that bought a truck and wanted to lease on and stuff. And I said, look, we're taking too long. I said, it's taking us too long to get this guy plates and get this guy leased on. I said, I would hate for his dream to fall apart before it ever gets started. I said, this is this guy's dream is to own a truck and to lease it on with our company. And I said, we need to make sure that happens. And she was like, "Yeah, I'm with you." She's like, "I'll get it taken care of today." I was like, "Cool." So, you know,
phenomenal. Yeah, bringing order into the chaos of this business, into the chaos of life, and doing what you can to make people's dreams, lives fit within the umbrella of the Texas Transportation Group that I know you guys are working towards branding as. Travis, you mentioned last week that you were in a marketing meet with John and Adam. Uh,
yeah,
how do you feel talking about that a little bit?
yeah. I mean, it's cool. So, every like thoughts are causative, right? And I think that's something we don't like teach in school, is that everything starts with a thought, right? And you have to think it before you can do it, before you can build it, before you can achieve it. Um, and it can't just be I want, right? Um, you almost have to kind of trick yourself into believing that you already have it. And so John and Derek have really been pushing this TTG transportation, Texas Transportation Group. Not something that I really was worried about, but it's something that they wanted, and they have a vision, and they have um these thoughts and ideas of how it should look, and it's coming to life. So that's our umbrella. And then we have Tanager Logistics underneath that. We have Double Diamond Transport underneath that. And we're branding the companies, to be easier to sell, I guess, to the customer, right? So that's a big part of their job, is saying like, look, we're a one-stop shop, and here's the services that we offer, and it's all under this one brand. So it's cool. Yeah, and then seeing, I think like when groups come together like collectively and they all have like a similar vision, that's where like the magic happens, right? One person is powerful, but it's not the same when you have a group of like-minded individuals that want to work together to achieve something. Like, get out of the way, you know.
Yeah,
So we have a pretty talented marketing team that we're working with, and and you do like a brainstorming session, which is kind of what we did last week, and colorways and kind of the fonts and logos and all that good stuff. And these ladies just they already know like the next step. And sometimes when you're new to a new thing, or a new endeavor, you don't really know what the next step is. And there are people out there that have done it and they do know what the next step is, and they can help guide you. And
Nice. So
that's
you guys
for
partnered with people that are specialized in creating brands, and that's their business to help create a brand. Please tell me that you guys touched or visualized on kind of bringing that Texas like home, that Texas ethic, that Texas like what you touched on earlier, the like communicating that you guys are still like real good cowboys that are like that they'll go out of their way, they'll come off the beaten path to kind of save the day and help you like catch your horses or rattle the bulls that like broke out the cage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
um,
mean, that's the Southern charm, right? The Southern gentleman, the Southern lady. Um, you know, Not to say that the Midwest and the Northeast and it's not to say that they don't have their charms. They do. And it's cool to travel and to visit places, but Southern hospitality is is something that I kind of took for granted growing up, right? Wherever you go, there should be, sweet, friendly, kind, helpful, service. And, for the longest time growing up, my mom never pumped her own gas. There were
mhm.
full service stations, all over the place.
Yeah.
And, even probably into the mid to late 90s, there were still full service stations. Like you pulled in, they cleaned your windshield, they checked your oil, they checked your tires, they pumped your gas, and and if you threw them a couple bucks, great. If you didn't have it, then it was just something they provided. It was a service, and that's what she looked
Incredible.
for. She was like, "I'm not
Yeah.
pumping my own gas. I'm a woman. I don't
Yeah.
want to. I'm a lady." And
I love
so
that.
that's how I grew up. You know,
Hmm. I love
so
that so much. Yeah. I mean, that's what's attracted me to working with you guys for so long now is that that like ethic, that loyalty to the person, to your word, to to just those ethics, that code is huge, and
yeah.
I'm
And my
excited.
and my mom was, very hardworking. It wasn't that she was unable to pump her own gas. She obviously could, and she knew how to check her own oil and do all that. But it was that she felt like she shouldn't have to. And
It's just about having that somebody that's like, hey, I'm here to help. Just
yeah,
having I'm here to help. I know you don't need it, but having that and companies that provide that, if if we could come back to that somehow, because I feel like the game's gotten so cutthroat where it's all about the bottom line, save every dollar, where we can't afford to have servicemen out on lines pumping gas into people's cars, and um, and I just wonder when, if there is
a
a
shift.
a
Yeah.
shift for that. And
Well, that's what when we sat down to go over the marketing, the branding and stuff, you kind of have to define your company. And you kind of have to define like what you stand for and your chief overall, purpose. And
mhm,
when I explained or helped explain kind of what we do, I was like, look, we're a boutique, brokerage firm. We're not like the CH Robinson TQL Coyote Now RXO model, right? We're we don't hire brokers typically straight out of college. We don't hire brokers typically that don't have a pretty decent sized book of business and some experience in the game. We hire and who we go after is the best. When Adam asked me who the best broker I worked with was on the double diamond on the asset side, I said Derek Anderson, and unequivocally, I was like, this guy is the best broker I've ever done business with. And it took us a couple years to convince Derek that we were the right decision. And I don't think he regrets it for a second. I think he wishes he would have come over sooner. But we do expect more out of our brokers, um, and and we do require them to work harder and work longer, and they they're they're a part of it from the second we get an email or a phone call saying we have a load all the way to when the load's invoiced. They have their hands in there. And that's why they're so good, and that's why our service is so good, is because they make sure that everything is taken care of from start to finish. And they have people underneath them, right? But they're still managing the business, they're managing the account, they're managing the people underneath them to make sure that it gets done and gets done the way they would do it. And the way they do it is the best.
You're right. You're right. Uh, I like how you talked about having to define and put a like to be able to communicate in a way on where you win, and so I've been kind of thinking for us at Whitestone about something similar where uh, is it cost that we're competing on? Is it reliability and speed that we're competing on? Or is it quality that we're competing on? And Poland is not the least expensive option for talent in the world. Uh, Reliability, like in the talent world, you're also involved in the talent game with Buena Vista, right?
Yeah. I mean, so you can kind of have two of three of those things, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
you can have quality and speed, but it's going to cost you. Or you can
Mm-hmm.
have quality and price, but it probably isn't going to get done at the speed you want it to. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, we try to check all three boxes. We try to
Mm-hmm.
be as competitive as possible, provide you the speed and the quality. That's the goal. But
In the
typically,
logistics game, you have to. It's gotten so in the trucking game, you have to be the best on price. You have to be reliable on always, right? And you need quality. Quality is the one that is probably the hardest to define for trucking
yeah,
companies today.
ePay Manager, powered by OTR Solutions, is a back office automation and carrier payments platform that revolutionizes brokerage back offices with their proactive invoicing workflow, a centralized portal that gets you out of your email. Learn more about ePay by visiting epaymanager.com or text ePayFC to 80483 to see what they can do for your brokerage.
well,
Right?
and that's typically they call us. You know, one if they want it done right, they call us. From the jump, but they also call us a lot when somebody else has already messed it up. And so, when you call us and somebody else has already messed it up, we will fix your problem. And
Mhm.
I mean, just tell us what it is and what you want done, and we'll knock it out. But it's going to cost you,
Mhm.
especially when you've already boogered it up. You
And I
know,
think that's the quality in this game. It's when shit goes bad, when shit goes wrong, how well do you communicate to solve that throughout the entire process?
yeah,
Uh, I think that's what defines quality in trucking. but there's so many elements. There's the brokerage element too, and then there's the people element and the gaining customers element. And as you build a new brand, that's a lot to consider.
Yeah, you got to like who you work with. That's first and foremost. If they don't like you, then you're not going to get the business. But the reason why they like you is because A, you're honest, you have integrity. You're going to tell them if something goes south and not lie to them. You're going to give them accurate information and ETAs, and then you're going to provide the service, because if you don't provide the service, then it doesn't really matter what they pay you. They're wasting their money, and our goal is to make everybody we touch better, and make it more efficient. And, there are a lot of big companies out there that try to run transportation companies, uh, adjacent to their core piece of business. And, you're either in one or the other. It's really, really tough to run a successful transportation company when you're in the food business. you know it's really tough to run a successful mechanic shop when you're in the trucking business. A lot of people try to do both. And I forget which book it is, but it's, they talk about like the hedgehog uh deal, right? So it's like, for us, our business is transportation. That's what we do, right? And we are a transportation solution. If you have product and you need it shipped from A to B to C, we will take care of it better than anybody else.
hmm You know your specialty. You know where your people are most competent and capable, and that's where you put your focus in. And you're because of that, you can compete much better versus splitting attention and focus amongst many different branches. However, when building an empire or a kingdom, if you have people, you could, in theory, be a lot of companies if you have the focus and the people that are doing it. It's just that's like the highest level of the game. That's Warren Buffett, where he's got like hundreds of companies, right? In all types, like he's got BNSF and all types of Coca-Cola, and he's playing the transportation game and the manufacturing game, and it's build the people build the business, right? Warren
And then
has.
connecting the dots too. I think Warren, Ted Turner, um, a lot of those guys, like, they saw the dots just like the rest of us, but the average person does not typically make that connection. And when you start connecting them and seeing how they all fit together, and then getting the right people on the bus and the right seats on the bus, then you just let them run. And so, we do transportation, but we also have a business partner that runs our commercial real estate business, right? And so, the cool thing about having, and he's just the right guy. He's the right guy in the right seat, running a business that we basically don't mess with, because that's his business. That's what he does. But it's
Mhm.
all connected, because when we're looking for a new customer, my folks on the transportation side are talking to my folks on the real estate side, saying, "Hey, you've got a guy that's looking for a warehouse. Is he looking for someone to also move him from one warehouse to the other? We can do that. Or is he looking for a transportation solution to take care of all of his inbound, outbound, or, whatever freight?" And it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, yeah, he is." Or vice versa. We have customers that are looking for warehousing, and so I'm like, well, just get them over with the commercial real estate guys and let them go to work.
I
And
love that.
and
I
it's
love
cool.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool.
It all connects.
It all connects, and even if you don't see it at first or it doesn't make sense, but that's the power of community and uniting a lot of people that are on the same team that want to win together. Adam Blanchard, your partner, he told me when I first went into business with you guys that I think he went to school for law.
Yeah.
I don't do law anymore because doesn't matter why but he's like, I do business because you can make money together you win together. Where in law, you're all fighting against each other, and in business, everybody wins together, makes money together. And
Yeah. Rising tides raises all ships, right? We
yeah,
want we want our competitors to grow. Um, we want our customers to grow. We want the people that work in our companies to grow. We want everyone to grow, right? Because if everybody grows, and everything grows, and that's the goal. Um,
the economy grows, the country grows ultimately, right? And
yeah,
so, yeah.
yeah, we want everyone to have more buying power.
Mhm.
We want everybody to work towards, thriving, right? And that's why I think there's no with us, there's no like um you know, doing things behind people's back or being shady or trying to like undercut somebody it's like no, just give them the best price that you can give them, right?
Mhm.
Give them the best service that you can give them, and that requires experience and knowing what you're talking about. So that's the kind of people that we have, and then just do the best job that you can. If you do that, the rest of it will take care of itself. We've never focused on the money. It's money is like a measuring stick, and so it's a cool thing to see. Like when you hit, $1 million a week in revenue, that's cool, right? Or for us in the beginning, it was, hey, let's get to $1 million a year, and then it was $1 million a month, and then it was $1 million a week. Um, and I think we're doing probably one and a half a week now, between the companies, and that's a crazy like thing to think about.
Mhm.
But we never focused on the gold, right? The gold was not the job. The job was to provide the best level of service that we could possibly provide for the best price. And if you do that, then the gold takes care of itself, you
That's
know.
right.
And so Think and Grow Rich outside the Bible is probably the most influential book I've ever read. And I'm like going through it again. So I did it, 10 years ago, before starting this company, and I've read, 100 or 200 books since that have been impactful and influential and have helped shape me and shape the company and shape the people I work with. But Think and Grow Rich, I always kind of had a special place in my heart for, Napoleon Hill. And chapter 6 is about the mastermind group. And um, so I started getting into the mastermind group, and I was like, we need to start this. We've got all these great young people that work with us, and so I asked them. I said, "Hey, you guys want to start meeting?" And we're doing, Wednesdays at 5 o'clock, and everybody was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we have a pretty good group of regular guys that come together Wednesdays at 5 o'clock, and and really like my goal was just to kind of get them together, right? And I didn't really know exactly what direction I wanted, and so I started reading some books on that, and kind of cultivating the right mindset for the mastermind
Can you
group.
go into
And
that? So if you want to start a mastermind group within your organization, what's the structure for that? How do you do? Is it just invite people and they come? How do you direct all that energy that's dispersed and
so there's a few different theories, right? And the mastermind group is just what Napoleon Hill kind of identifies it at, but groups of people, you know, have been meeting together for,
300,000 years.
however many, right? Tons, longer than Napoleon Hill. And but he kind of like identified this group idea, and put it in like an easy to understand verbiage, and basically, um, Jesus had his disciples, right? So Jesus, um, whether you believe he's the son of God or not, is one of the most influential people that ever walked the face of the earth. And from what we can tell, he was pretty perfect. Okay. And so you've got one of the most influential people, and really, we're only talking about 3 years, right? So 3 years of influence that has since changed the world, for thousands of years to come, right? And so this guy, on a supernatural level, A, doesn't care about money, and B, surrounds himself with some of the top minds that he comes across, right? So he sets up
And
his
these were
disciples.
not like any superhero like top minds, rock stars. They were fishermen and like
Yeah,
people that were pretty.
average Joes.
Yeah.
But he said, walk in faith and come with me, right? And faith is a big part of it. You've got to get everybody on your team to buy in, okay, on whatever your vision is, right?
Vision. Mhm.
Yeah.
So
And
communicate vision.
and that's what he taught. And these guys left their families, they left their jobs, they left their homes, they left their towns, and they followed him. And they will go down in history for that. Um but yeah, so that kind of motivated me. I was like, if the best person to ever walk the face of the earth surrounds himself with people to be better, then surely I should do the same.
Mm.
And so there was a book that we're reading. I finished, prior to recommending it to our mastermind group, but it's called Mentor Like Jesus. And so I recommended that book to the group. Everyone was like, "Yeah, let's knock it out." And the our group, like, the idea was not really to be like religious. That wasn't the original goal or the goal at all.
Mm.
But I had one of our guys in our group last week or the week before. He said, man, he goes, I've never really been big on like organized religion or going to church or studying the word. But he goes, but this is like kind of putting it in a way that I'm like interested in learning more. And I was like, dude, that's not even me working that magic. Like that's a bigger power, right?
Your mind, the
Yeah.
creator mind.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so for me, God is in all of us. That's our conscious. That's the little voice that tells us to keep doing good things. And I think as we like when we're kids, like I think we hear that voice and we're like, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that, or yes, I should do that, or you know, and it's, at least with me, it was like a really loud, um, internal dialogue and conversation with myself. And and as you get older, you kind of like turn that volume down, or you mute it, or you forget about it, you quiet it, and you shouldn't. That's what you should be listening to, because that's the you. That's like know thyself. Like that's, you need to know yourself, and that is a you, the best you, wanting the best for you, and you should be following that voice. So yeah, it's kind of that's a side quest, but
I mean, I want to go down that side quest for sure, man.
yeah,
You got my attention and interest, and honestly, like I mean, it's just me and you here, brother. So let's go down that side quest.
Yeah,
It,
when you
mm,
pray or meditate or quiet your mind, or you're asking God for something or advice or wisdom or patience or whatever it is, right? Like you already know the answer. You already hear the, oh yeah, that's what I should be doing. And you should listen to it, number one. Um, but that's God in us, talking to us and talking to us through love. And if it's not love, then it's not God.
mm,
If it's not a good thing, if it's malicious, or it causes harm to others, or it's that dirty, bad, icky feeling that is wrong, then that's not God. um that's the human component, or the devil, or whatever you want to call it, but it's not love. um and that's where we should be. So when you're bettering others, when you're doing good business, when you're lifting people up, that's love. um and love is super powerful you know
oh, shoot, man, that's given me so much clarity on the thing I'm going through right now. Like a business decision I'm experiencing right now. And I'm like, oh, I really want to help because this one person really wants these people, and I'm like, I don't know, like I want to recommend these people because I know these people want it, but there's also all these yellow and orange flags that and I'm like, and then there's this side of me like, if I recommend it, then business will come my way, but something feels like it's not that same feeling where I've had where it's like that person, yes, make that connection immediately, like that's perfect match. And here it's something, but it's not love. And that's given me some more clarity on, okay, when working with talent agencies, which is us, which is what I'm trying to help people. Like I want to help connect good people in Europe, in the world, with good companies, good businesses in the US. And to do that, I need to make sure like that those people that I am connecting are I'm confident in it. And I know those people are people that are gonna also bring light and heal and those types of things. And if I'm not so sure about it, then
Maybe the timing's not right, and
exactly,
maybe
maybe
they're not where they need to be in their life for you to
exactly.
put them on with you.
And sometimes in the past, like I have forced things like this for just forced them because I was like, I put that voice, that feeling of love aside, and it's like, oh, it's just business. Maybe not just business, but like I just recommend it because whatever, where now like that's giving me clarity. Like just follow the feeling in a lot of ways. Like people say like always logical, but like logically this would make sense, but the feeling wise, I think, yeah,
You already know what to do, right?
yeah,
And yeah, I mean
it's
it's
crazy, it's
it's
magic.
already
Mhm.
yeah, it's already there. And trust your gut. Your gut has gotten you here.
That's
Don't turn it off now. And then so the thing we're working through now is kind of like refining um our people. And so a couple years ago we got on with culture index. And so we give a culture index test, which is kind of like a Myers-Briggs, or personality test. And all it is it's like 50 words or 100 words, and they select the words that they feel like they identify best with. And so that's how we do that as step one before we give an interview. Because if they don't fit, high attention to detail, or if they don't fit, well, like an outgoing salesperson or whatever we're looking for the job, if they don't match that, then we typically don't go to
We
step two,
filter
which
quickly,
is an
a
interview.
logical filter quickly. Mhm.
Yeah. So we do that, and so 2 years ago or so, when we first had all of our employees take the test, we had a guy come in that kind of guides you through the test and the results. And so he meets with upper management, and he looked at our asset side, and we were struggling, kind of going to the next level, and getting me away from the day to day. And so he was like, he looks at me and he was like, "I'm sorry, man, but you got to land of misfit toys." He goes, "I would not, like, if you follow our program," he's like, "I would not expect most of these people to be here next year." And he was right. And I already knew it, but you're trying to save them, and you're trying to keep them, and you're trying to, you know, give them a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance or 100 chance.
Today's episode is also sponsored by Rapido. Rapido connects logistics and supply chain organizations in North America with the best nearshore talent, scale efficiently, operate on par with US-based teams, and deliver superior customer service. Learn more about the Rapido solution and begin building your team away from home at gorapido.com.
But really, you're
And
holding them down because the
you're
thing
only
with
you're only as
it,
strong as your weakest link, and we had some weak links. And so now the next step, is like, so we've tailor fit our organization. So I've got the guys that do data entry, are these, they call them like technical experts, like they're these types of people, right? And I've got our guys that do sales, they're these types of people, and I've got our guys that do our dispatching, or these types of folks. And so we've pretty well like narrowed it down. But now, you have drive, and drive is kind of the key determining factor that the test doesn't show, right? I mean, it does a little bit, so you can kind of tell like who's going to be self-motivated and who's not. But you can have a weak aptitude and know it, and be coached up and improve upon it. Like, if you're not a super organized person, that's okay. You just know that you need to be surrounded by organized people, and then you need to keep yourself organized and have somebody else hold you accountable. And so that's what we've done, is we've kind of built the team up, and now I've got like really good managers that are doing an incredible job. And I told them last week I'd seen a thing about the keeper test. And so I sat down with my general manager, and I said, "Hey, um, I want to employ the keeper test." And she said, "What's that?" And I said, "Knowing everything you know about the person, would you rehire them?" And she said, "There's a couple of them, no." And I said, "Then cut them loose. Those are the people that need to get replaced." And so that's where we're at. We're going through it. So we're hiring people that we would keep, and that we're training them up. And then if the people that we would not keep are not improved, and we'll obviously we go through a whole, plan to improve and give them the opportunity to fix the problems. But if they're not fixing the problems, then they will be replaced. And I wish them the best of luck, but that's what it's not fair to the people that are doing what they're supposed to be doing, to have to fill in the gaps and do somebody else's job. And it makes for an unhappy environment, when everybody is working as hard as they possibly can, um, to get the best results, then everybody is happy. And when you got one person that is showing up late and not doing what they need to do, they're just kind of doing the minimum, then that person needs to go. So
100%. And I think in a lot of ways that person is kind of just wasting their time because obviously they're not
yeah,
very into it, and so you're kind of just like in a way also letting like hey, like this isn't like don't be in this only here because of safety or money. Like go find that thing that excites you and that really engages you, because clearly it's not this, right? And so
Yeah.
um,
I had to get let go, from a company. I got laid off in 2008, in order to get here, right?
mhm,
Um,
exactly.
at the time it was devastating, but now looking back, I'm like, thank God
Yep.
that that happened so that I could take the next step, you know.
Or else you maybe would have still been there with sand in your eyes and kind of,
I loved it. I would have done that job for the rest of my life, and
yeah,
it was cool, but it wouldn't have gotten me anywhere, you know.
where where you can be today to be doing
Yeah,
cool things, good things.
yeah. So
Phenomenal, Trav. Travis, I know typically we run this for an hour, and so I I want to make sure with you. I don't want to go overboard. You know what I mean? Um, However, the conversation is flowing today, and it's great and fun. So talk
sure.
to me. How are you looking? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, um, if there's anything you wanna cover or talk about, I mean, that's where
I
we're at right now. We're branding
you
and
got
growing
time.
and
You're
yeah,
saying,
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'm
okay,
wide open
sweet,
today. Till five
sweet.
o'clock, we got our mastermind group.
All right, brother.
So
Okay, let's run. So one thing that you were talking about that caught my attention that I wanted to return to, but I didn't want to like interrupt you, was Jesus. You were talking about Jesus and um,
mentoring like Jesus.
mentoring like Jesus, but overall, just Jesus and how he was um, like an interesting person. And I was recently listening to a Founders episode. This is actually a few months ago, so not recently. And in Founders, he had read a lot of books about Jesus and what we know of his story, etc. And he mentioned that Jesus, when when he was a young boy, uh, he 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 kind of like him and his family, Joseph and Maria, if I'm
Mary.
not
Yeah.
mistaken, they went out into Jerusalem or the city, and Jesus disappeared, and they couldn't find him. And then after like a day or 2 days of searching or something, they found out he was in a church speaking with the priests, and that's like, and Mary says like, son, where were you? And he's like, I was in the home of my father, and that's like a cool story. And then it flash forwards to like, we have no information from that moment to up until Jesus was like 30,
Yeah.
33, 30 years old or something. Except for we know that Joseph was a carpenter, and like being a carpenter 2000 years ago, it's like running a small business. And so he was a very entrepreneurial person. So we can imagine that Jesus was helping his his stepfather, I suppose, with the
Yeah.
business. And being an entrepreneur makes you, teaches you how to speak with all types of people. And like, I just think it's interesting. Like, well, Jesus was kind of entrepreneurial potentially, if he was helping um, the business. And then they talk about in the founders episode how when he would go out and meet with people with his as he would go out and meet people once he was in his 30s, uh, people were always fascinated that he could talk on such a wide variety of subjects and like entrepreneurial business stuff, and that he used a lot of connections to nature and birds and animals in the way he spoke. And this is just another thing that caught my attention recently. Robert F. Kennedy, I saw like a short or a snip of him saying that, hey, it's important that we conserve like our forests, our nature, etc. Jesus, you mentioned, was not like, he didn't care about money, and he united average Joes. And you also mentioned while you were speaking earlier that listen to God, listen to that God, look for that love. He communicates to you through different types of, boom, just an idea or a dream. And Robert F. Kennedy was saying God often communicates through nature, through animals, and through signs like that, if you're paying attention. And I like, after hearing that and like connecting all these little pieces of info, I like started paying much more attention to the animals I see on a typical day, and I've had some pretty interesting experiences based on that, and it makes life really interesting for me. It makes it like more fun when a black cat crosses the road for me, and while as I'm driving, I'm like, ooh, changes are coming. Like some chaos is going to enter my life, but maybe chaos, not necessarily bad chaos, like changes in something,
Yeah,
or
in
like,
the Matrix, Neo sees like a black cat and then like another black cat or whatever, and he was like, he says, he's like, "Oh, deja vu," and they were like, "What did you say?" And it
oh,
means that like somebody's messing with the Matrix.
wow,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, life is like so funny because if you're paying attention, you'll see it. So if you're looking for good, you'll see it. It's everywhere. It's all over the place. You can like have a thought and then like the next thing you know, it's there. I was singing a song the other day,
Uh,
and it was weird. It just came into my head, like songs do.
mhm.
And then a couple days later, I was at an event for one of our biggest customers, and I was using the urinal, and in walks the bigwig, the guy that is like the head of the food chain or top of the food chain for our biggest customer, and
Uh-huh.
uh, and sure enough, the song I had been singing 2 days prior is playing on the intercom in the
Whoa.
bathroom. Yeah, and so
Whoa.
which is weird, right? It's just a weird
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you have to observe and pay attention to notice those two connections, and
Yeah,
then
and
this
and I'm
opportunity.
like,
Uh,
of course I'm taking a leak, but I'm like, this is an important interaction with this guy, like, you
yeah.
know. And so anyway, so I was humming along to this song, and he was like, you like this artist? And I was like, yeah, man. And yeah, he's pretty good. And I said, this is an old one, man. And he goes, it is. And so anyway, so him and I ended up leaving the bathroom and talking for a minute or two, but I knew that it was an important thing, you know.
Because of
Um,
those connections,
yeah,
etc.
and it's everywhere. I mean, it happens all the time when you're in tune with it. Um, yeah, back to Jesus. Yeah, for sure. There's 25, 30 years of his life that we don't really have a whole lot of documentation of. Um, but Christianity was started as a small group. So one man, 12, 13 disciples, right? That was the original small group. And the goal in like mentor like Jesus is that, you know, I'm the mentor starting this out, right? Because I felt like a calling to do that. But I want to make them all mentors of their own small groups. And then those guys will all be mentors of their own small groups and so on. And if you look at, you know, 2000 some odd years ago, we had 13 people, and now it's how many millions of people? It's a lot, right? And it happens very quickly. And I said, like, if you have a small group that, say of 10, and your 10 people have 10 more small groups, and those people have 10 more small groups, you hit a million people like within 5 years. It's pretty quick, and it's so you got to make sure that your heart's in the right place, and out of the mouth the heart speaks, right? And so the things that you're saying are good and true, and then the people that are in your small group are speaking good and true truth, um, and it grows. And so one of the things is right is, we've had a couple people come and go, and maybe they're not always keeping up with it every week, or they're not doing their reading, or they're kind of inattentive. The question is do you let them go? Do you have a conversation with them and say, hey, I don't want you to be a part of the small group anymore? And the answer is no. You let them phase themselves out, and they will. So trust that the right people will stick with it, because they will. And we're probably like 2 or 3 months into our small group, and the right people keep showing up, and the wrong people have since gone.
Mhm.
So it's pretty cool.
I love that. I love that so much. Um, yeah, I'm implementing something similar with the saunas, and I'm yet to open it up to everybody in the company, but that's like ultimately what I want to do, where everybody, hey, come to a Wednesday morning sauna session before work starts at 2 p.m. and and relax, and let's talk, and let's mastermind and think how better we can improve everybody's situation, how better we can improve our clients' situations, etc. And so we've been doing it with, the people I have so far coming, and already so many cool things and ideas have come of it, where we've been
Yeah.
like, okay, how can we better improve, our like a situation for. I haven't been meeting with the same generals that we have for Tanager, because a lot of them are girls and they're not joining us for the sauna right now. But with some of the other clients that we have, we've come and we've been talking about, like, okay, so like over the scale of the next 50 years, or like 25, 10 years, how can we help be as beneficial to our this brokerage? And so we can't, it's really like being a company that identifies um, elephants in the room, or like snakes under the rug, like things that people are don't necessarily want to address, that if addressed in a kind, good way, can help move things forward a lot. And then doing like a quarterly meet with the leaders of these companies, where, hey, we've noticed that we could improve on this, but nobody's really talking about it, and we're losing a ton of time and opportunity on this, and we're seeing this problem repeating all the time, and we could easily fix it if we just ask this person to be doing that, and like just like find a list of issues really that we're observing, and then also on the next PowerPoint have a list of potential suggestions. And then as a talent agency, as a staffing company, our people are not just, here's a person, see ya, and where and where now the people that come, they're also like, oh, we can also be like more than just a worker overseas for this company. We can really be a part of it that's helping really improve it. And if we're helping really improve it, then we could grow up and be in much higher positions for this company one day too. And that'd be cool. And then become more, more valuable, and our lives grow, and we can, accomplish all of our dreams. And so mastermind groups expose those types of ideas, or bring them to light, or bring them to the
Yeah.
surface.
Well,
And
that's
that's
what,
mhm.
I tell all of our employees. I'm like, you know, when we sit down and talk, it should not be a disciplinary conversation. It should be a conversation of basically you telling me why I can't afford to lose you. And you should be telling me how much you want to make. Um, and I should be telling you that I'm going to do everything in my power to get you there, and hopefully get you there as quick as you want to get there, and I've told everybody that starts with this, I'm like, I'm going to have to pay somebody six figures to run this show. Do you want it to be you? You know, everybody wants the view from the top, but not everybody wants to climb, you know. And for me, it's not about the view, it's just about the climb. I just want to keep climbing, you know,
Mm,
and don't look down.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I mean, somebody's got to do what I do. Somebody's got to do what I did. Um, and I'm happy to give it up,
mm,
And so that's what we got, the right people. We're moving in the right direction. They're learning, they're growing, they're improving. Adam played, my business partner played high school football. He was a quarterback. And he gave me a pretty good analogy when we first started. He said there are some players that they need their face mask grabbed. They want you to grab that face
yeah,
mask and get
yeah,
up in there and yell at them.
yeah, jack
He
them
said
up.
he's like, there are other players that need a pat on the back or a pat on the butt, you know. And he said you got to figure out which one's which. And I'm a face mask kind of guy. Like if you grab my face mask and yell at me, I'm gonna work harder and longer and stronger. And yeah, I don't ever want you to grab my face mask again, you
Mm,
know. Um, but not everybody's wired that way. And so you can't take the same approach with everybody that you would even yourself. There's a back to Jesus, there's a golden rule, right? And this is Christianity, um, Islam, Buddhism, Catholicism, you name it. There's a golden rule. And the golden rule is to do unto others as you would want done unto you, right? And to take it the next step further is teach others the way you would want to be taught. Um, think of others the way that you would want to be thought of. You know, thinking is such a powerful thing, and we think that it's not a big deal to say, like, oh, that person's stupid. But when you say that, even if it's just in your head, then you treat that person that way. And they did a study, I don't know how long ago, but it was where they went into a kindergarten class and they told the teacher, they picked three kids at random and they said, these are your smartest kids. These will be your best students. They'll achieve the most. And lo and behold, at the end of the year, those were the three students that learned the most, that improved the most, that were the gifted kids. And they just picked them at random. They wanted to see if by telling the teacher they were smarter, the teacher would treat them as such. And when you treat your employees like they're stupid, then they do stupid things. When you treat
mm.
them like they're smart, they do smart things. When you treat them like they're good and capable and amazing human beings, then they become good, capable, amazing human
I
beings.
love that so much.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Control Chain. Struggling to find loads? Control Chain offers a cost-effective solution for carriers to secure more freight contracts with reliable shippers. Sign up at controlchain.com and start receiving loads today.
I love that because even Jesus, average fisherman, but he saw the best in fishermen, and
Yep.
boom, lo and behold, they helped spread the message. Like, yeah, if you have a team that's you may think that, oh, they're not the executive C-suites, the best, the sharpest, the brightest. They'll have all the most knowledge. Yet, if you believe, if you teach with patience, if you have the right thoughts, that no, they're not stupid. They just haven't. They don't have the right habits built in yet. They don't have the right knowledge, right? And if you approach it that way, then where focus goes, energy flows. And that study with the teacher, that is wild. I don't know if that's like I don't know if it's the same thing as placebo necessarily. Of like, it's almost like a placebo. Like
Yeah.
they told her that these kids are these are the three best at random, but nothing really. That's not based on anything except for them telling the teachers. So that is maybe kind of like a placebo, but like placebo should not be called placebo. It should be called freaking magic or something like that. Like just the craziest energy. Because if you believe it, then it starts to materialize, and that is just so wild.
And that's what they're learning, and that's what they're like studying and coming to realize is that thoughts are causative. Okay, they
Mhm.
have an effect. Right? Um, have we ever talked about the slit test?
The slit test.
Yeah, the
No,
slit test. So okay, so and this is a real study. You can look this up. But basically, they had a box. Okay, um, and what they did is they put a camera on the outside of the box, measuring like atomic waves hitting the back wall of this box. Okay, and so they had you know basically a a blaster of particles, okay, that would fire um, particles through or atoms through these two slits, okay, and they were hitting the back wall, and they had a measuring device on the back wall on the outside of the box that was measuring the atoms as they hit the back wall. And I could be getting this a little wrong, but this is the crux of it.
Mhm.
So um, the device was measuring the atoms hitting the back wall as waves, and they said that's not possible. It's particles, individual particles coming through the slits, hitting the back wall of this box, and it's particles, it's individual shots. And so they put the camera inside the box to see if they could identify what was going on. And when they did, it started measuring
like
particles, not
part-
light, not waves. They took the camera outside the box, waves, back in the box, particles again, individual shots. Okay. So wild, right? Like camera inside the box, one thing, camera outside the box, another thing. Okay. And so that's what led to uh one of I forget the scientist's name, his cat, right? And he had this theory about if you have a cat inside the box, um, is the cat dead or alive? And there's a whole thing, and that's what the Apple did a program on it called Dark Matter, but it's based on this whole concept, right? And so it's ultimately if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound?
Mm.
And according to this study, the answer is no. It doesn't make a sound unless there's somebody there to hear it. Um, and so what they're discovering is, and this is kind of like quantum physics, right? Um, is that matter is kind of in a shaky state until observed.
Mm.
So outside the room, the particles might be everywhere. But once observed, the particles take the form of the chair, or take the form of the wall,
Wow.
or take the form of whatever, right? And
Whoa, whoa,
that's just
whoa, whoa.
some like basic quantum physics, right? And
Mhm.
um
Can
and
I
so yeah,
put like better grasp it? Because I've never really even put a toe into the world of quantum physics. Um, this is like the first explanation I've ever had of it, and I'm just trying to like make sure I'm following. So I'm in this room right now. I see this chair, etc. I
yeah,
walk out of this room. It's almost like a video game. I'm loading out of this screen,
yeah,
and so to save the computers, the games, like memory, RAM, whatever you want to call it, they will give you a loading screen and you enter another place. And so everything here just kind of disappears, so it doesn't take up space in the computer in the game necessarily.
Correct.
And,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what you're saying via this quantum thing, where like you're in the room, it's all material. You walk out, and it doesn't happen necessarily.
Egon. Yeah. I mean,
That
it's
is a
scattered.
pretty good, like understanding of what
Yeah,
of what. Yeah.
that's the basic concept,
Wow.
right? Um,
Whoa.
so anyway, so that being said, okay, so if that is reality, we don't know, right? But
Mhm.
if that's, I mean, it's plausible, right?
Mhm.
But if that's actual reality, then it means that the atoms, the particles, um, the the stuff is affected by observation. Okay, that's what the slit test proves. Okay, and if it's affected by observation, then it's alive in a sense, right?
Yeah, it transforms based
Yeah,
on observation. It
right.
reacts.
It reacts to observation, to being observed, right?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
if like inanimate objects are now animated and they're alive, we like if we like understood that, if we really truly like believe that and
Mhm.
grasp that concept early on in life, we would treat our things a lot differently.
Ooh. Could I add a little piece of knowledge that
Yeah.
I've gained that could like disconnected it with? So I read a book, I forget which book, um, but it talked about this guy living in London, I believe, like an Indian guy, if I'm not mistaken. I think his name was R.R. Ramachandran, and I could be messing it up. Maybe that's not the guy, but that's just like the name that came to my mind right now. And I believe, from what I remember correctly, he um, was this guy who believed in a, people would call it radical or extreme form of Christianity, Catholicism, that believed that everything has a living energy, soul, etc. And so this couch, everything would. And so this guy's view on life was that belief. And when he read books, he would read books and he would touch the letters because he felt like that would connect him better and better understand and soak that knowledge, soak that soul, that that essence deeper, more. And this guy, he created a lot of the foundational knowledge that later Tesla, Edison, etc., used in their research and studies to come up with the wild electrical inventions we have today. And if you're into like Warcraft or like sorcery or like King Arthur stuff, like maybe you've seen images of like a wizard with a book in his hand and he's like casting spells. And he's got like lightning coming from his fingers to the
Yeah.
pages of the book, and I think that all comes from that
Well,
guy.
that's what words are, and that's why the written word is so important. And like actually like writing it, not just sticking it in your phone or your tablet or your computer, but actually, like journaling, I think is such an important thing because you're, physically pen to paper writing down your thoughts. Um, yeah, it's like I said, it's very causative. You talk about like the wizard and the lightning. That's why it's called spelling.
Oh,
You're casting a spell.
mhm.
When you're writing things down, it takes on a life, and everything that we've ever done in this business. Um, has we've like written down, right? And then it comes true. And that's one of the really important, topics in Think and Grow Rich is write down what you want, quantify it, what you're willing to give up to get it. Put a date in which you want to achieve it by, a deadline, and then sign and date it. And so when I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 26, 27, somewhere around there, I wrote down how much money I wanted and when I wanted it by and what I was willing to give up to get it. And then I signed and dated it, and I went back and like in the same sitting, and I went back and I crossed it out because I said originally I had said 12/28 of 2017. That was my 30th birthday, and I crossed it out and I changed it to 5 years later because I was like, there's no way I'll achieve it by 30. That's too soon. I think I was 28 when I did my number. I wrote my number down, and so anyways, so I put that and I put it on a little picture frame that I had over my bed, and I looked at it and I took a picture of it, and it was there. I didn't read it every night. You're supposed to read it every night before you go to bed, but I didn't. But it was there. It was in my room, and so anyways, so 2 years later, 2.5 years later, it's 12/28 of 2017, and I'm
You're 30
closing
years
on.
old.
Yeah, I'm 30 years. I'm turning 30, and I'm closing on my house, and it just so happened that that was the day that they had available at the mortgage company to do it, and so anyways, so Adam, my business partner, had done a lot of work to get the mortgage company our financials because we had only been in business for like 2 or 3 years, and we're entrepreneurs, and so you got to prove to them that like you're going to make your payments, right? And so anyway, so they go through everything, and they do some accounting, you know stuff, the EBITDA and
Mhm.
multipliers and all this. And so Adam calls me, and it's my birthday and we're closing on the house, and I got approved and everything was good. And he said, "Hey, do you want to know your net worth?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. That's cool." And he tells me, and it's my number. It's
Oh,
on the dot, on the day, money. It's my number. And I was like, holy
oh,
shit, man. And like I immediately like recognized it and saw it. And I was like, dude, that's wild, And then so fast forward to 2 years ago. So 4 years later, we're starting a company in Costa Rica. And that's one of Vista Solutions. That's our staffing company. And so Adam had done a lot of preliminary research and found that it was Costa Rica. It's in the central time zone. There's some tax benefits. They speak both English and Spanish, which is important for our drivers. And we're thinking about hiring, or creating um, Costa Rican jobs for dispatch positions. And so anyways, so he's done all the research and he says, "Hey, I want you to come down to Costa Rica with me and check this out and see if this is something we want to do." And so we go down, the trip's great. We meet all these really cool people, and we start the process to start our company in Costa Rica. And so I come back, or I call my mom, or somehow I end up talking to my parents about it. And so I tell my mom, I'm like, "Hey, we're thinking about starting a company in Costa Rica. We're gonna get an apartment down there, blah blah blah." And she's like, "Hold that thought." And my mom was a teacher, and so she kept all of our, you know, fifth grade arithmetic papers and all this stupid stuff that's not worth
oh,
any money, right? And she runs
oh,
to her closet and she comes back out and she's like, "Hey, do you remember?" She's holding up this project I did. She goes, "Do you remember this project you did when you were in third grade?" And I was like, "Not really." And so I'm reading it, and it's what I want to be when I grow up. So I'm 8 years old when I wrote this, and I was
oh,
like this nerdy little kid that liked to read like fact books, like people were like, "What do you like to read?" And I was like, nonfiction. you know. And so I would read these like fact books, and I had stumbled across a fact book that said Costa Rica is the statistically the happiest place on earth.
Wow.
And so I had read that, and so on my what I'm going to be when I grow up report, I wrote, I'm going to live in Costa Rica when I get older. And then now I'm,
Wow.
35 at the time or 34 at the time, and I got an apartment in Costa Rica. It's not exactly what I envisioned. The how is not
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, dude, I live in Costa Rica now,
Wow.
at least a
Magic.
few months out of the
Magic.
year.
And like you're creating those spells, and when you put them in words or draw them, and they're just like something about taking that thought, that vision, and making it real on via words or via paper or even cave paintings or I imagine
Hieroglyphics, yeah.
setting up seashells in a certain shape, or building a sandcastle. Like I imagine all of that has some kind of uh, some thing, um, which is
It's immortalizing idea, right? I mean, um, it is it is taking a concept and making it come to life. Yeah, write down your goals. It's insanely important.
You're right. Uh, yeah. Uh, Life is beautiful. Life is magical. Ever since I started, this is my eighth journal. In like the last 3 years, I want to say. I used to do it when I was in high school, maybe even earlier. I stopped it and came back to it. But I've also done like a vision type, just like no limits for my life, and so many things from that have come to life, and it's just like whoa. And I also didn't look at it every day. It just boom, said it, and then kind of forgot about it for a couple years, and look back at it. Whoa, check mark, check mark. All these things that I put down, like they happened. How? When? What? And
Yeah, it's like be careful what you ask for because you might just get it. It's
yeah, be
it's
careful.
be careful what you ask for because you will get it.
You will get
Like
it.
you will get it. You will get it in one form or fashion. And that's like, as I'm like stepping away from the company, I have to make sure that like I know what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for time away because bankruptcy will give you that, you know.
Mm,
I'm asking for my employees to give me everything they got, to make sure that we are hitting our goals, hitting our numbers, growing, and that we're profitable, so that this can be a generational company. That's what I'm asking for. That's what I want from the universe, right? I don't want time off. You know, that's just a byproduct of having the right people and running the business the right way. But the goal is to run the business the right way with the right people.
I love that so much, Travis. There's two directions or paths that I think we can turn on right here. Um, One, when we were speaking about the spells and stuff, a little example from the UFC world that I'd really like to share because I'm involved with MMA talk, and I think you'd appreciate this. And then the second one would be a little bit of the vision and like what you're looking to build. If you'd like to listen to the vision I'm
Yeah.
thinking, maybe we could unite ours somehow. I think there is a little bit of an opportunity. Um, so uh, in the UFC, there are two fighters that have just been. Are you a big UFC watcher?
I, at a buddy's house, or I'll catch it every once in a while. I'll watch the highlights, but yeah,
Okay.
I get the idea.
AI workers allow you to train once, scale without limits, and leverage every single data point. Happy Robot is automated communication built for the supply chain. To learn more, go to happyrobot.ai.
So there's two guys that have just been like wild in like the last 2 years. One is the current light heavyweight champion, Alex Pereira. He hails from like the jungles of um, the Amazon, and he's just like tribe person from these jungles. That's like voodoo magic shaman. Like he gets these rituals before he fights, and like he was just like a few years ago he was like a shop mechanic changing out tires for cars and like just fighting on the side, and now he's the light heavyweight champion of the world, and he's just like defeating all the like the best people that like were known as the tip top, like Israel Adesanya, like this style bender that's so fluid and everything. And Alex Pereira, he's just got this awesome style. And then there's another guy, Yuri Prohaska, who he's this guy from Czechoslovakia, who he'll go into the mountains and he trains like nobody else. Everybody else goes to gyms, trainers, like typical, well, not typical, but like trains like you would expect a UFC athlete to train. He goes into the mountains and hits a tree like 100 times a day. You know, he'll scream from mountaintops and do like all these things that are just so different from what everybody else does. And when he goes into the ring, he also fights so different than everybody else. And he'll throw punches from angles you would never expect. He'll do these little like spells that in his mind they're like, ooh, this gives me like a refresher, like a re-energized. And like, so he'll go in, he'll exchange blows, like he'll get smacked, and then he'll boom, go like this, and he just gets like the second wind, and he'll go in for another hit, and he'll just like boom, like got these crazy knuckles because he's hitting the tree like 100 times a day. He's got knuckles that just like, you know, and so these two titans, these two just like giant like guys that are just both so powerful and so like represent their cultures so uniquely and in a cool way. They fought, and so the first fight was very close, and both their fights were very close, but after the fight, the winner was Alex Pereira, and Yuri Prohaska from Czechoslovakia, he made a tweet or made a comment that, hey, when you fight like this, I don't know if I don't remember now if it was before the fight or after the fight. Maybe it was before, but he's like, I dare you to do this fight. I think it was before the fight, the second fight. I dare you to take this fight without doing your magic, the rituals that you guys, the words that you guys are casting, because that's having an influence. I want a fair fight without that. And the MMA community in the comments and everything, like, just ripped him apart. Like, oh, you wild, weird guy, weird, you know. And I just like can't help but wonder, like, interesting, based on what we've been talking about, you know, and that kind of stuff, and history, and like as I explore more history, I get so fascinated thinking about history, because like what I've learned, Trav, is 2,000 years since Jesus is like 2,000 years since Jesus. From the information that we have in the world, 10,000 years before Jesus was the end of the Ice Age and the glaciers. And so like a lot of the lakes that are here in Poland, the lakes that exist, they're from those glaciers that melted 12,000 years ago. Like 300 years before Jesus was Alexander the Great and Aristotle and Plato and Aristotle was Alexander the Great's teacher, or Plato was, and then Aristotle was his teacher, and Socrates was his teacher. And Socrates, I've learned, has a ton of similarities to Jesus, where like Socrates, he walked barefoot through the streets of Greece, loved like Greece, didn't care about money, would educate people on like really like honorable, stoic, kind, like ways of looking at the world and at life, and just like really fascinating to learn about a deeper dive on those ancient, um, interesting, wise people, and they were just 300 years before Jesus, and like 5,000 years before that, we got like ancient Egypt. And then we know that humans, like based on like the research that we've been given and presented, is like we know that Homo sapiens in the same form that you and me are alive goes back 300,000 years. And so like when I think about like our DNA, like right now is like I think of the string of DNA that we have. And the string of DNA, I think if we like you like broke it apart, each capsule, I think like if you turned it into a line, I'm pretty sure like your DNA wraps around the world, if I'm not mistaken. I could be completely wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure if we took your DNA or my DNA and just stretched it in a line, it would circle the world. And that, in my mind, is how many ancestors ago, like your father is one DNA capsule away from you, your grandfather, 2, 3, 4, and you got a version of yourself that was in the times of Jesus. So there was a Travis Ahern that could have existed 2,000 years ago, which is like if one person, your dad lived 100 years, you live 100 years, your grandfather lived 100 years, then going with that pattern, 20 people ago would have been Travis Ahern, or whatever Ahern, but still your DNA, your blood, your genetics was living in the times of Jesus. And what did his life look like? And because you exist, he had to exist. And we often think about our family, our ancestors, but we like stop at a great grandfather or great grandparents when like we've completely forgotten about all the ancestors that like lived 20 people ago, 50 people ago, 1,000, like the ancestors that like we forgot about those people. Those people were real, and if we could somehow like tap into that DNA and live and see through their eyes and at least imagine for a minute, use some empathy and picture what Travis Ahern in the year 5000 BC, might have, or like ancient Rome might have looked like, and that vision, that thought, that curiosity excites me in a lot of ways, because there's still mysteries from the ancient world, like the pyramids and stuff that we don't know much about. And so like, I think there's a lot of lessons and medicine and all types of hidden truths within ancient history that is worth exploring.
Yeah. Now we don't really know. I mean, we know what they've told us, right? You ever listen to Billy Carson?
Billy Carson, he is the
So he kind of talks about some stuff like
yeah.
that.
He talks about the 12 tablets, emerald tablets, I think a lot.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I know.
but he also talks about like how they've done kind of research on like DNA strands and you know, comparing them to like a hard drive and gigabytes of storage and how much storage there is, and apparently it's it dates back to what he thinks is the beginning of time. um it's it's wild stuff. It's wild to think about. There's another guy, Graham, uh maybe Carson, Graham, yeah, Graham
Graham
something.
Hancock.
He
Graham
do what?
Hancock. I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
Graham Hancock.
Yeah, so that dude's been on Rogan.
Yes, I see him on Rogan.
He's got some cool stuff. Yeah, and those guys both think we come from a fallen society. You know, I can tell you that we've definitely forgotten some truths that our great grandfathers knew, or should have
Yes,
known.
Sodom and Gomorrah, right? I don't know if I'm saying. I mean, I want to say
So
it in
yeah,
Polish.
Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's also like an ancient city and story from the Bible from back then,
Where they were doing a bunch of lewd acts. Yeah, for
which is
sure.
also way before Jesus, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Um, so, um, yeah, and that's okay. So, they like Jesus is asked in the Bible at some point. He says, they asked him, they said, "Why do you teach in parables? Why don't you just tell us what to do?" And he said, "Because if I told you, you wouldn't understand it." Um, but there's definitely like,
I think
talk
there's a big
about,
lesson in that too, though. Sorry for interrupting,
oh,
but like
no, no.
as we were talking earlier, like it's important how you think when training your people, and how you speak, and how you teach, and um, like sometimes you know the answer, but don't say the answer. Let the person. You've got to have people. You don't want to. You've got to have the person come up with how to think of the answer and continue. So.
Yeah, yeah. No, but back to like, so like, yes, they're parables, but there's also like where they find it in nature where the three heads of the river existed, or four heads, or it's like yes, like what he was talking about was like metaphorical, but there's also a lot of like similarities to physical forms and realities of what we think is metaphorical. But I think that all just comes from within, and grows into a physical manifestation of here or here, right? I mean, if you look at people, you look at like our prison system. If you look at like bad people, like they carry themselves in a bad way most of the time. You could probably line up all the prisoners, and for the most part, like guess at what their crime was, because it takes a physical form. Um, you know, eh, being being immoral shows up.
Mm.
You know,
I know what, like we are such evolutionary creatures. Like if we start playing volleyball, you start growing padding on your
yeah,
forearm. If you start going to the gym, you start getting big. If you start, playing a lot of soccer, your legs start to get big. If you think in a certain way, you may start to look a certain way.
you will. Yeah,
You will.
yeah, you'll carry yourself a certain way. Absolutely.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Life's so cool.
it's wild.
Life's so cool, and it's. I often see it as it's like it gets gray, it gets foggy at the beginning of the day, and just go towards the sun. Like be that tree that tries to rise its branches and get that sunlight, and that is the best strategy for living a life that like living a good life, like to growing into a great tree, grow towards the light. I think that's the answer for me, for my life at least. Um,
Yeah,
and like that gives me a lot of clarity in times of confusion or fog. It's just like do the right thing.
And you're the light bringer.
The light bringer. That's right.
That's
You know,
everything gravitates towards light and grows and blossoms. Yeah. It's a key ingredient, you know,
Mhm.
in everything. It's wild. I forgot I do have a meeting at 4. So
Yeah,
if you want to
that
cut it,
was so much
but yeah,
fun, man. So much fun.
no,
Thank you. Um, yeah. Anything you want to wrap up with in this last?
I think we've touched on it. There's definitely like deeper holes to dive down. But yeah, I think everything that we're doing right now is good. Um, these are good meetings. These are good conversations. I think our organizations are growing and prospering as a result, and I think our people are growing and prospering, and that's the important thing. Um, yeah, you build the people, and the people will build the business.
100%. And I'm actually thinking like I don't know how many people will watch this necessarily on the long haul podcast. I know we didn't talk much about logistics, but for me, I've been talking with throughout my people of like how can I better communicate with my people because I don't have a single office where I can talk with everybody and everyone's working from home. And I've been thinking that of creating a channel or a place where it's the Whitestone clan, the Whitestone kingdom, where you can hop in and our team can listen to talks with Travis Ahern, talk to whoever our other clients are or any other conversations and clients and conversations in between us as we're thinking about things of how we can improve the company, etc. And just announcements and communicating with our people through this format for the people that want to listen, then that's cool. And I'm thinking more and more on this idea. And I want to, yeah. And so Travis, if it's cool with you, if I can sometime down the line add this conversation to
Yeah, yeah,
cool,
yeah, and
cool.
we can do a more structured logistics conversation in the future, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think this was like for me talking about this kind of stuff totally influences the rest of your life in other ways if you start to understand it and stuff. And so, like, why are people listening to the logistics podcast? To figure out probably how to make more money and prosper. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're two people that are running large companies, organizations at this point. And if we're talking about this kind of stuff, then it's probably worthwhile for you to talk about this kind of stuff too, or at least entertain it, I suppose. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of other like we're not probably the only like I digress. You got to go. I got to go. But it's been amazing. Thank you so much, Trav.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother. Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Freight Caviar Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, or if you didn't, leave a review. Let me know what you think. I appreciate any feedback. If you'd like to have more Freight Caviar content, go to freightcaviar.com and subscribe to my email newsletter.